In the quiet town of Phillip Island, Australia, a tragedy unfolded that sent shockwaves through the community and the country at large. Imagine a place where everyone knows each other and where life is peaceful and unhurried. Now, picture that peace shattered by a shocking crime that rocks the very core of this friendly and close community. Samantha Fraser, a beloved mother, psychologist, and respected resident, was brutally murdered by her brutal husband, Adrian Basham. The situation appeared to be quite simple at first, a suicide case that might have arisen from the stress Samantha felt after her divorce. However, it was later discovered that there was a lot more to her death. This video delves into the chilling story of Samantha Fraser, exploring the events leading up to her murder, the court proceedings, and the aftermath that shook a nation. This was much more than just a murder case. It's a haunting narrative of the events that led up to this horrifying act, the intense courtroom drama, and the aftermath that hasn't truly been solved until 2023. The life of Samantha Fraser. Samantha Fraser was not just a name in the news. She was a vibrant, lively individual, an incredibly dedicated mother, and a highly skilled professional psychologist. She had trained as a psychologist and dedicated her life to helping others through their struggles. Her clients, friends, and family all described her as someone who was caring, compassionate, and always put the needs of others before herself. In addition to her professional accomplishments, Samantha was an exceptionally devoted mother to 3 wonderful children. Her boundless love for her children was visible in every aspect of her existence. Conversations about her children would invariably ignite a sparkle in her eyes, a testament to the immense pride and joy they brought her. Despite the myriad challenges that life threw her way, Samantha was always fiercely independent and determined to carve out a better future for herself and her children. However, the bright exterior always hid a tragically turbulent home life. Let's talk a bit more about what led to her premature death. The path to tragedy. Samantha's life took a dark turn when she met Adrian Basham, who was soon to become her husband. On the surface, Adrian presented himself as charming and charismatic. The couple started dating in 2005 and soon got married after a whirlwind romance. Initially, everything seemed perfect. They had 3 children together and a strong bond that seemed unbreakable. However, behind closed doors, Adrian was manipulative and controlling, often subjecting Samantha to emotional and physical abuse. Isolated from her friends and family, Samantha's world became increasingly smaller as Adrian's grip on her tightened. Who was Adrian? Adrian, born into the harsh landscapes of Australia in 1973, had a childhood that was far from idyllic. His early years were marked by turbulence and hardship, growing up under the stern gaze of his father, who was a police officer. However, despite living in the shadow of law enforcement, Adrian demonstrated tendencies far removed from the principles of justice and fairness. His behavior was often marked by explosions of uncontrolled aggression and an unsettling streak of cruelty, raising concerns about the way he acted from an early age. How was this possible? Shouldn't his father, a police officer, have stopped him and taught him to behave properly in society? Well, in a shocking twist, his father, a man who had once been a guardian of law and order, became an enabler of his son's alarming behavior. In fact, when Adrian ended up murdering his wife, his father did not react with the expected horror or condemnation. Instead, he shockingly chose to protect his son from the consequences of his actions, using his knowledge of the law to guide Adrian on how to evade punishment. However, we're getting ahead of ourselves. The fact is that Adrian's father, a former police officer, would go to the extent of aiding his son in evading justice for a crime as serious as murder, raising questions about the influence of his upbringing on his violent predispositions. Was it his troubled childhood that led Adrian down this path of violence, or was his aggression an innate part of his personality? These are questions that will likely never be answered. The end of Samantha and Adrian's relationship. Despite the abuse Samantha was receiving from Adrian, she stayed with him for over a decade, hoping that things would improve and out of fear for her safety and the safety of her children. However, in 2017, Samantha decided to leave her husband once and for all and filed for divorce. She was also able to get a restraining order, which meant that Adrian was to stay away from her and their children. However, instead of accepting the end of his marriage and moving on, Adrian became increasingly obsessed with Samantha. He would constantly harass her via texts, phone calls, and social media, refusing to accept that she had left him. Samantha remained hopeful, however. The years of abuse had taken a toll on her mental health, but she was determined to start fresh and provide a better life for herself and her children. She moved in with her parents, and with their support, she was able to get back on her feet and rebuild her life. However, her new freedom was cut short in what first looked like a suicide case. Most people initially bought that version of the story, as she had been under intense pressure following her divorce. But some things simply didn't add up. Ready to uncover the dark truth? Let's continue with Samantha's story, the murder that shocked the nation. On July 22, 2018, Samantha Fraser's life was abruptly and cruelly cut short. She was murdered by her estranged husband, Adrian Basham, in a crime that sent shockwaves through the nation. It all started when Samantha received a dark phone call from her ex-husband. They had to meet in court for a domestic violence case, where she was going to defend that she had been raped by her ex-husband and had been receiving abuse from him for years. As you can imagine, Adrian was not happy about what was going to happen, and he decided to call her and threaten her. He told Samantha that he was near her parents' house and warned her about what could happen if she didn't withdraw the charges against him. What exactly happened on the day of the crime? That fateful day marked a chilling turn of events that nobody saw coming. Samantha, knowing that she was very likely to win the case against her ex-husband, decided to continue with the legal proceedings. However, the story suddenly took a very dark turn. Her family and friends were thrown into a state of shock when her lifeless body was discovered in her own garage. The body was hanging from a rope, as the horrible scene had been meticulously staged to resemble a suicide. The investigation, however, later uncovered that this was just a desperate attempt to deflect suspicion and distort the reality of what had truly happened. After a bit of research, the physical evidence present on Samantha's body painted a much more sinister picture. Her body bore the marks of severe injuries that were inconsistent with a self-inflicted act. For example, she had apparently been hit with a blunt object repeatedly before being hanged from the rope. The presence of these wounds suggested a struggle, hinting at the grim possibility that Samantha had fought for her life. The police were also able to find blood on her neck, which suggested that she had tried to break free from the rope. All in all, the garish contrast between the staged suicide and the brutal injuries on her body raised immediate doubts about the nature of her death. And of course, the meticulous attempt to conceal the crime further hinted at foul play. Every detail of the suicide setup appeared calculated, suggesting the work of a person or persons intent on masking their horrible act. This chilling discovery turned Samantha's apparent suicide into a potential murder investigation, and of course, the prime suspect was Adrian, her former husband. As the police delved deeper into the case, it became increasingly clear that Samantha's death was not what it initially seemed. The court proceedings. Adrian, who was the main guy in question, didn't say a word at first. But after a while, he switched gears and started to talk. He said that he did go to Samantha's house, and yeah, things got rough. But he swore up and down that she was still breathing when he walked out the door. The stuff the cops found, though, told a different story. It didn't match up with what Adrian was saying. As we mentioned earlier, her body showed a lot of signs of struggle, and the only person who had been near Samantha's house on that fateful day was Adrian. That didn't paint a good picture of the ex-husband, who was also known for his bouts of violence and the dark way he sometimes acted. The court case started to roll in 2022. Samantha's kids were there, and boy, they had some harsh words for their dad. They were mad and hurt, and they made sure everyone knew it. And after a while, Adrian ended up confessing to committing the crime. At first, Adrian tried to make it seem like he didn't plan to do what he did, like it just happened all of a sudden. But the people in court didn't buy it. You just don't brutally hit somebody with a blunt object time after time as an accident. And then, the final piece of evidence was discovered. Adrian had been waiting in Samantha's car for 2 hours before she got home, so he could confront her alone. That meant that Adrian had, in fact, planned everything in advance and was found guilty of premeditated murder. In February 2023, the verdict came down. Adrian was guilty as charged. And what is the punishment? Well, he got a life sentence. That means he'll be spending his days and nights in jail for a long time. The judge said he can't even think about getting out on parole until he's spent 30 years behind bars. The decision, although not an easy one, was met with applause in the Melbourne courtroom. The sentence was a testament to the gravity of his crime and a victory for justice. It doesn't seem very likely that Adrian will ever see the light of day again. Despite the conclusion of the trial, the pain and loss caused by Samantha's murder continue to be felt by her family, friends, and the community. Her death remains a stark reminder of the deadly consequences of domestic violence. The aftermath and legacy of Samantha Fraser. In the aftermath of Samantha's murder, her community and the nation mourned. However, amidst the grief, there was a strong resolve to ensure that Samantha's death was not in vain. Activists, politicians, and ordinary citizens alike rallied together, calling for stronger measures against domestic violence. Samantha's teenage daughter has been particularly vocal, turning her personal loss into a public cause. She launched the Change for Sam campaign, an initiative aimed at raising awareness about domestic violence and advocating for policy changes to protect victims better. Samantha's legacy continues to live on through this campaign and in the hearts of those she touched during her life. Her story serves as a painful reminder of the urgent need to address domestic violence and protect potential victims. Despite the tragedy, there is hope that Samantha's death will lead to significant changes in how society handles domestic violence. It stands as a stark reminder that it is not just a private issue, but a societal one that requires collective action. Final thoughts. As we wrap up this video, we can't help but reflect on the harrowing story of Samantha Fraser. Her tale is a stark reminder of the harsh realities many people face behind closed doors. It's a sobering wake-up call about domestic violence, and it sparked conversations across the country about how we can do better to protect those in danger. Samantha might not be with us anymore, but her legacy is making waves, pushing for change, and shining a light of hope for others in similar situations. It's important that we remember Samantha not just for how she tragically lost her life, but also for how she lived it. She was resilient, full of compassion, and absolutely devoted to her children. Even in the face of adversity, she showed strength and courage, qualities that inspire us all. In her honor, let's keep her memory alive by continuing to advocate for victims of domestic violence and striving to make our homes, communities, and world a safer place. What do you think of this true crime story? Let us know in the comments below. And if you like hearing stories like this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.